Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lesson 4, which is based on the introductory paragraph. I'm David Marler, and I am here to help you learn how to write a literary essay. So, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about the introductory paragraph, or the first paragraph of your essay. Now, you already know exactly how you have to prepare, how you have to do all of the work before you even start writing. So, a lot of mind mapping, a lot of thinking. And if you have any questions about that, look back at lesson 2 because that lesson is extremely important for understanding this text and what you're going to be doing today. So, we're going to go through a few parts of the introduction. And the first one that we have is, of course, the hook. Now, the hook is the first sentence that you're going to be writing of your essay. And the hook, the reason why we use the hook is that it helps us understand the basis of what you're writing. And essentially the hook, as you can tell from the name, it's something that's supposed to hook the reader in. So there are a lot of different ways of writing a first sentence. For instance, if you're writing an argumentative essay, it's going to be different than if you're writing a literary essay. For a literary essay, there are a few parts, there are a few various rhetorical techniques that we can use in order to begin a paragraph, an introduction, an essay. Now, the first one is an intriguing question. Then we have a relevant quotation. We have an evocative image or description. And we have an important fact. Those, I think, are the four most important. There are, of course, many different types of hooks, but these are really practical ones that you can use for a literary essay. Now, the first one that we have is an intriguing rhetorical question. And for this one, I'm going to be continuing based on the information that I mind mapped out in lesson 2. So everything's going to be based on two YAL novels, Darius the Great is Not Okay, and YAL/canonical novel, The Catcher in the Rye. So an intriguing rhetorical question is a question, and remember, a rhetorical question is a question in which you really already either know the answer or the answer isn't evident. So here we have educators are often faced with the question, is growing up without discovering who you are or realizing who you are not? A second one would be, what does it really mean to be okay in a world that constantly tells you who you should be? Now, these are really great questions, and they hook us in. By reading them, we think, oh, this is going to be an interesting essay. I want to hear more about this. Now, another one that is quite helpful, but maybe a little difficult, is a relevant quotation. Now, a relevant quotation is, of course, it used to be that when we would tell students, if you have a book that you really want to write about, it's really smart to memorize a quick quote from that book. That's something that you can always use in your essay, but this one's going to be difficult if you can't memorize quotes really quickly. Some people are really good at it, others aren't. But a relevant quotation is also a great way to start an essay. And here we have, for instance, a quotation from The Catcher in the Rye, and this hook is at the beginning of The Catcher in the Rye. Holden's teacher tells him that life is a game, boy. Life is a game that one plays according to the rules. Yet it is society's rules that Holden and many YAL characters find so hard to understand and accept. So this is a relevant quotation, and this is something that you can do. And of course, here later on, we'll see if we use this one. We're going to have to correct the spelling mistake that's on the slide. Now, a next one that we have is an evocative image. An evocative image is, of course, an image that we are giving the reader that kind of sets the scene for the essay that you're going to write. So one of them is, some people come of age not with fireworks and triumphs, but in the quiet ache of feeling out of place in their own lives. Another one is, it's easy to feel invisible in a world that never stops talking, especially when you're still trying to learn the language of yourself. So these are both really good evocative images. This is something that, especially if you're quite an artistic or a creative person, this is a great way to start an essay. And with the hook, you really get a lot of leeway. It doesn't have to be based on fact. It has to be based on something that's very, a way in which you're trying to hook the reader into wanting to read your essay. Now, the last one that we have with the hook is an important fact. And this one is going to be, a fact that you may know about the novel or about the genre. And in this case, it's about the genre. And this one is according to YALSA, which is the American Library Association. One of the most important characteristics of young adult literature is that YAL tells the truth. about life and society. And this is something that I find to be really important. So this is something that I'm going to use for my essay. So we then go on to the second part. So there are three parts of the introduction. You have the hook, which hooks the reader in. The second one is the focus. And directly after the hook, you have to introduce the novels, their writers, and incorporate the essay question. Try to use as many words or phrases from the essay question as possible. So in this essay question, the same one that we use for lesson 2 is, how do two works address the tension between individual desire and societal expectations? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to immediately incorporate my hooks so that I'm building a paragraph here. Now, the hook is, according to Yalsa, one of the most important characteristics of young adult literature is that YAL tells the truth about life and society. And then in the focus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the novels, and I'm going to introduce as much information from the question. So Holden from J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye and Darius from Adib Khorram's Darius the Great is Not Okay struggle immensely with the truth of the adult world. These characters find it difficult to maneuver the tension between their own individual desires and the expectations of others in society. So when you look at this here, I've now essentially incorporated, I've introduced the reader. The hook brings them in. We're talking about YAL. We're talking about the truth of life and society. Then in the focus, I introduce the two texts that I'm going to be using. And here, I know that I'm introducing the main characters, Holden from Catcher in the Rye and Darius from Darius the Great is Not Okay, and their authors, J.D. Salinger and Adib Khorram. And for this one, it's important to remember that after this, I don't ever have to refer to their first names again. I can use the word Salinger, or I can just refer to Catcher in the Rye, because the big information has been given here in the focus. Now, what I've also done here is I've introduced the important information from the text, so from the question. So these characters find it difficult to maneuver the tension between their own individual desires and the expectations of others in society. So we've done our hook, we've done our focus. Now the important thing that we have to work through is our thesis. And the thesis is the main thing that we're going to be arguing. It's kind of the blueprint for our essay. And remember, in lesson 2, I really went over how you do this when you prepare. I said in body paragraph 1, we're going to discuss the various societal expectations. And we're going to go over what are the expectations in The Catcher in the Rye. What are the expectations in Darius the Great is Not Okay. Then in paragraph 2, we're going to go over what the individual desires are of Holden in The Catcher in the Rye and of Darius in Darius the Great is Not Okay. So in our thesis, I'm going to plan that all out. I'm going to let the reader know paragraph 1 is going to be about this, paragraph 2 is going to be about that, and paragraph 3 is going to be about this. And this is because this thesis statement maps out the main argument that you have for your essay. It normally includes the main points of all 3 of your body paragraphs. So we use the information that we got from lesson 2 of this video course, why brainstorming is so important. And we normally start out, you don't technically have to do this, but I normally recommend that new writers, and especially people that are learning this scaffolding procedure where we really study how to write, to always start the essay with, for the purpose of this essay, I will, and then you can use various different verbs. So we use the verb argue in English because argue is how you have discussions academically, discuss, examine, explore. For an essay that you're writing in a testing setting like you will for this course, where you're not writing it on your own at home, this will really help you because it allows you to really stay on topic. You're going to have 3 points that come after this, each one that covers each body paragraph, and it allows the reader, the examiner, to know, okay, this is the student's thesis. So for this one, we already saw in lesson 2 where we did most of the work. That's where we did all of our thinking. Now we're just putting ideas on the paper. So for the purpose of this essay, I will examine the societal expectations that Darius and Holden are confronted with. That's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, how these clash with their own individual desires. And paragraph 3, and what these works say about the inner struggle of young people in their respective worlds. So I now know as the examiner, okay, this student is going to talk about the societal expectations in paragraph 1, paragraph 2, individual desires, and paragraph 3, what these works say about the struggles of both main characters. So let's go on to what we're going to do next. So we've gone through this. We've done our hook, our focus, our thesis. And if you're actually, writing the essay, a good thing to do is to just actually kind of write it like this: hook, focus, and thesis. And here we have, this is what we're going to look at. Now we're going to do kind of the combination work. And when I say combination work, there's always an aspect of stylistics in good writing. That is that you want to get the information across. You want to make sure that the sentences blend together. And you also want to make sure that when you're doing this, that you're not kind of, repeating yourself a lot, that there aren't any errors in your grammar or your syntax or your style. So let's go through first the question, because I want to make sure that after I'm done writing my introductory paragraph that I didn't go off the question, that everything is based on that question. So the question is, how do two works address the tension between individual desire and societal expectations? And here is my introduction. So, according to Yalsa, one of the most important characteristics of young adult literature are it YAL, the truth about life and society. Holden from J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye and Darius from the Deep Khorram's The Darius the Great is Not Okay struggle immensely with the truth of the adult world. These characters find it difficult to maneuver the tension between their own individual desires and the expectations of others in society. For the purpose of this essay, I will examine the societal expectations that Darius and Holden are confronted with, how these clash with their own individual desires, and what these works say about the inner struggle of young people in their respective worlds. So, let's go through and let's see. So there's some errors that we have here that we're going to have to fix. There are also some other aspects of this essay that we're going to really have to kind of go over because it doesn't flow quite properly. So we're going to have to make some changes. And those changes you can see here when we look at the last slide. So here what I've done is I've changed some stuff to make it stylistically and grammatically better, but I've also added a sentence to my focus because I think it's still missing. It's not bringing the idea completely home. So, according to Yalsa, one of the most important characteristics of young adult literature is that YAL tells the truth about life and society. Holden from J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye and Darius from Deep Khorram's Darius the Great is Not Okay struggle immensely with the truth of the adult world. These characters find it difficult to maneuver the tension between their own individual desires and the expectations of others in society. They grapple with the world around them and often feel as if they cannot live up to the expectations of others. For the purpose of this essay, I will examine the societal expectations that Darius and Holden are confronted with, how these clash with their own individual desires, and what these works say about the inner struggle of young people in their respective worlds. So, this is a lot better. The sentence that was added in there makes it, kind of brings home the idea that, what the two novels have in common. Two young men that grapple with the world around them and feel that they can't live up to the expectations of others. And this sentence, this paragraph here for our introductory paragraph, this is a really good introductory paragraph. So, what your homework is for this class is that you're going to write your own introduction paragraph using the hook, focus, thesis system. You'll answer the question based on two books that you've read. So you will base you will base it on the following question, the same one that we've used for the last two classes, which is how do two works address the tension between individual desire and societal expectations? If you have any questions about this, feel free to contact me, and have a wonderful day.